Last night, Jimmy Kimmel Live turned into a battleground as host Jimmy Kimmel clashed with Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary ever. Their fiery debate over the Trump administration spiraled into a viral showdown, leaving Kimmel shaken and Leavitt unyielding. The stage was set for drama from the moment Karoline Leavitt, the 28-year-old firebrand known for her fierce loyalty to Donald Trump, strutted onto the Jimmy Kimmel Live set. The crowd, a mix of Hollywood, liberals and curious onlookers, buzzed with anticipation. Kimmel, with his signature smirk, leaned back in his chair, ready to dig into the controversies swirling around the Trump administration. Leavitt, dressed sharply in a navy blazer, sat poised, her eyes locked on Kimmel like a hawk. The tension was palpable, and the audience could sense this wasn't going to be a fluffy late-night chat. Kimmel kicked things off with a jab, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "So, Karoline, you're the youngest press secretary in history, which is impressive. But let's be real, working for Trump must feel like babysitting a toddler with a Twitter account, right?" The audience roared with laughter, but Leavitt didn't flinch. Her lips curled into a slight, confident smile. "Jimmy, I'd say it's more like wrangling a lion while the media throws darts. But I'm good at multitasking," she shot back, her voice steady and sharp. The crowd murmured, surprised by her quick wit. Kimmel, undeterred, pivoted to a hotter topic: the Trump administration's recent push to overhaul immigration policies, a move critics have called heartless. "Your boss wants to build walls and deport families, Karoline. How do you sleep at night defending that?" he asked, leaning forward, his eyes narrowing. The audience leaned in, sensing blood in the water. Leavitt didn't hesitate. "I sleep. Fine, Jimmy, because I'm defending the American people, not the media's narrative. Our policies prioritize citizens who've been ignored for decades. You wouldn't get that, sitting here in your Hollywood bubble." Her words landed like a punch, and the crowd erupted in a mix of cheers and boos. Kimmel's smirk faltered for a split second, but he recovered, doubling down. "Oh, come on, Karoline. You're selling a fairy tale. Trump's policies are about division, not unity. You're just the shiny new mouthpiece for his chaos." His tone was sharper now, almost accusatory. The audience gasped, sensing the conversation veering into hostile territory. Leavitt leaned forward, her calm demeanor unshaken. "Jimmy, the only chaos here is the media's obsession with twisting the truth. I'm here to set the record straight, not add to your sound bites." Her voice was like steel, cutting through the noise of the crowd. The exchange was electric, each jab met with a counterpunch. Kimmel tried to steer the conversation to Trump's legal battles, hinting at alleged corruption. "Your guy's got more lawsuits than a used car salesman. How do you spin that one?" he asked, his grin returning, expecting to corner her, but Leavitt was ready. "Spin? I don't need to spin, Jimmy. The American people see through the witch hunts. They want results, not headlines. Maybe you should try reporting facts instead of chasing ratings." The audience exploded again, some clapping, others jeering, as Kimmel's face twitched with irritation. As the segment wore on, Kimmel's questions grew more pointed, his tone edging into aggression. He brought up a recent Trump rally where inflammatory rhetoric had sparked controversy. "Karoline, your boss is out there fanning flames. You really think that's leadership?" he snapped, his voice rising. Leavitt, still composed, fired back. "Leadership is standing up for the forgotten, Jimmy, not pandering to elites who think they know better. You're not the voice of America, no matter how loud you shout." The crowd was on edge, hanging on every word, as the confrontation teetered on the brink of chaos. Kimmel, visibly rattled by her unflappable confidence, leaned back, his jaw tight. The audience could feel the heat, and social media was already lighting up with clips of the exchange. Leavitt's calm defiance was stealing the show, and Kimmel knew it. As the segment neared its end, he tried one last jab. "You're good at dodging, Karoline, I'll give you that. But America's watching, and they see through the act." Leavitt's eyes sparkled with defiance. No act here, Jimmy. Just truth. Maybe you're not used to that. The crowd roared, and Kimmel's smile was gone. What would happen next in this explosive showdown? The Jimmy Kimmel live studio was a pressure cooker, the air thick with tension as Jimmy Kimmel's forced chuckle barely masked his frustration. Karoline Leavitt's unyielding composure had thrown him off his game, and the audience was eating it up. Social media was ablaze, with hashtags like Kimmel vs. Leavitt trending as clips of their verbal sparring spread like wildfire. Kimmel, his jaw still tight, knew he was losing ground. He leaned forward, determined to regain control as the show rolled into the next segment. "All right, Karoline," Kimmel said, his voice laced with a biting edge. "Let's talk about trust. Your administration's been caught in lie after lie. How do you stand there and act like you're the beacon of truth?" the crowd murmured, sensing the escalation. Leavitt tilted her head slightly, her expression unshaken. "Jimmy, the only lies I see are the ones the media spins to fit their agenda. My job is to cut through that noise and deliver facts to the American people. You should try it sometime." Her tone was calm but razor-sharp, slicing through the room. The audience erupted, some cheering her boldness, others booing her defiance. Kimmel's eyes narrowed, his patience fraying. "Facts? You're out here defending a guy who says whatever pops into his head? Consequences be damned. That's not leadership. That's a circus." His words dripped with contempt, and the crowd gasped, hanging on the brink of chaos. Leavitt didn't blink. "A circus, Jimmy? Maybe you're used to performing in one, but I'm here for the people, not the spotlight. They're tired of being fed your version of the truth." Her voice was steady, her gaze locked on him like a laser. The studio was electric. The audience, split between applause and jeers. Kimmel, now visibly agitated, shifted in his seat. He wasn't used to guests who didn't buckle under his wit, and Leavitt's poise was unraveling him. He pivoted to a personal jab. "You're young, Karoline. I get it. Idealistic. But hitching your wagon to Trump? That's a career death sentence. You're smarter than that, aren't you?" The audience oohed, sensing the low blow. Leavitt's smile tightened, but her composure held. "My career's just fine, Jimmy. I'm here to serve, not to chase. Applause from people like you. The American people deserve better than your condescension." Her words landed hard, and the crowd roared, some standing in support. The confrontation was spiraling, each exchange more heated than the last. Kimmel, desperate to land a knockout punch, brought up a recent Trump policy on healthcare cuts that had sparked outrage. "Your boss wants to gut healthcare for millions, Karoline. How do you justify that to families who can't afford a hospital bill?" he snapped, his voice rising. Leavitt leaned forward, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to his aggression. "Jimmy, you're cherry-picking headlines again. Our plan is about efficiency, not cruelty. We're protecting families from a broken system, not abandoning them. But you wouldn't know that, would you? You're too busy scripting outrage." The audience was on its feet, the noise deafening as the clash reached a fever pitch. Kimmels, face flushed, his cool facade cracking. He wasn't just losing the argument, he was losing the room. Social media was exploding with memes of Leavitt's unflappable responses, while Kimmel's jabs were starting to look desperate. He tried to pivot, but his tone betrayed him. "You're good at this, Karoline, I'll admit. But you can't defend the indefensible forever. America's waking up." His voice was almost a growl, and the crowd hushed, sensing a line had been crossed. Leavitt's eyes gleamed with quiet fire. "America's been awake, Jimmy. They're just tired of being talked down to by people like you. I'm not here to play your game. I'm here to win for them." The studio shook with noise, the divide palpable. As the segment neared its close, Kimmel's frustration boiled over. "You know what, Karoline? This is my show, and I'm done with your deflections," he snapped, his voice shaking. The audience gasped, stunned by his outburst. Leavitt, still composed, raised an eyebrow. Your show, Jimmy? Maybe it's time you listen to your audience instead of preaching. Before Kimmel could respond, a producer signaled to cut to commercial, but the damage was done. Leavitt was ordered off the set, her exit poised and defiant. Kimmel sat, frozen, visibly shaken. The internet was already calling it a massacre, but what would Leavitt do next? The Jimmy Kimmel live studio was a cauldron of chaos, the audience still reeling from Karoline Leavitt's dramatic exit. Jimmy Kimmel's outburst had backfired spectacularly, and the internet was merciless, with clips of his meltdown racking up millions of views. Kimmel flops trended alongside Leavitt legend, as viewers dissected every moment of the confrontation. Backstage, producers scrambled to salvage the show, but Kimmel, still at his desk, was visibly rattled, his hands gripping the armrests. Leavitt, however, wasn't done. Against the producer's orders, she reappeared at the stage's edge, her presence commanding silence from the buzzing crowd. Kimmel's eyes widened, his composure crumbling further. "What's this? You're back?" he stammered, his voice a mix of disbelief and irritation. The audience hushed, sensing the showdown wasn't over. Leavitt, her navy blazer pristine and her expression serene, stepped forward. "You didn't think I'd let you have the last word, did you, Jimmy? I'm here for the truth, not your tantrums." Her voice was calm but carried an edge that cut through the room. The crowd erupted, some chanting her name, others booing as the divide deepened. Kimmel, desperate to regain control, forced a laugh. "Truth? You're just here to grandstand, Karoline. This isn't a Trump rally." His tone was venomous, but it only fueled the tension. Leavitt didn't flinch. "Grandstanding? No, Jimmy. I'm here because the American people deserve to hear what you won't let them. You're not their gatekeeper." Her words were like a whip, and the audience roared, split between those cheering her defiance and those loyal to Kimmel's brand of snark. The confrontation escalated as Kimmel leaned forward, his face red with frustration. "You're out of line, Karoline. You were told to leave. This is my stage, my rules." His voice shook, betraying his unraveling confidence. Leavitt's eyes gleamed with quiet resolve. "Your stage? Maybe. But the truth doesn't follow. Your script. You can't silence what people already see." The crowd was on its feet, the noise deafening, as social media exploded with live reactions. Viewers were glued to their screens, tweeting furiously about Leavitt's audacity and Kimmel's spiraling meltdown. Kimmel, now cornered, tried to pivot to a safer topic, but his heart wasn't in it. "Let's talk about something else. Like, your boss's obsession with crowd sizes," he jabbed, aiming for a cheap laugh. The audience's response was lukewarm, sensing his desperation. Leavitt seized the moment. "Crowd sizes? That's what you've got, Jimmy? While you're counting heads, we're fighting for families, jobs, and borders. Maybe you should step outside your studio and see what America really cares about." Her voice was steady, her poise unshakable, and the crowd's reaction was seismic, with applause drowning out the boos. The exchange was a verbal cage match, each word amplifying the stakes. Kimmel, his cool completely gone, snapped, "You're just a mouthpiece, Karoline. You're selling a con, and everyone here knows it." His shout echoed, and the audience gasped, stunned by his raw aggression. Leavitt, unfazed, leaned in slightly. "A con? The only con here is you pretending to speak for the people while you mock them. I'm not here for your applause, Jimmy. I'm here for the millions you ignore." Her words landed like a thunderclap, and the studio shook with noise. The audience, polarized but riveted. Producers, frantic backstage, signaled for security, but Leavitt's presence held the room hostage. Kimmel, his face a mask of fury and embarrassment, tried one last jab. "You're done here, Karoline. You can't just storm back and hijack my show." His voice was hoarse, his authority slipping. Leavitt's smile was icy. "Hijack? I'm giving your audience what you won't. Honesty? "You're the one losing control, Jimmy." The crowd was in a frenzy, phones recording every second, as the internet declared Leavitt the victor. As security approached, Leavitt stood her ground, her gaze locked on Kimmel. The audience was electric, sensing a historic moment. Kimmel, his hands trembling, muttered, "This is over." But Leavitt's parting shot was lethal. "It's over when the truth wins, Jimmy. And we're just getting started." The crowd exploded as she turned to leave, but what would happen when the cameras stopped rolling? The Jimmy Kimmel Live studio was a storm of noise and emotion, the audience on its feet as Karoline Leavitt's words hung in the air like a challenge. Security flanked her, their faces stern, but Leavitt's poise remained unbroken, her eyes still piercing Jimmy Kimmel, who sat slumped, his trembling hands betraying his unraveling. The crowd's roar was a mix of awe and outrage, phones capturing every second, as gestured Leavitt vis Kimmel dominated social media. The internet was a battlefield, with viewers hailing Leavitt's courage and others slamming her audacity. As she turned to leave, the tension was unbearable. What would happen when the cameras stopped rolling? Kimmel, his voice barely audible, muttered, "Get her out of here," but the words lacked conviction, drowned by the audience's fervor. Leavitt paused at the stage's edge, turning back one last time. "You can kick me out, Jimmy, but you can't kick out the truth. America's watching, and they're done with your games." Her voice was calm, resolute, a final dagger to Kimmel's crumbling facade. The crowd exploded, some chanting, "Karoline," as security gently urged her toward the exit. Kimmel's face was ashen, his smirk long gone, replaced by a mix of shame and fury. Backstage, the chaos spilled over. Producers shouted into headsets, trying to regain control, but the damage was done. Leavitt, escorted through the wings, remained composed, her head high as staff whispered in awe. The audience, still buzzing, refused to settle, some booing Kimmel, others cheering Leavitt's defiance. On stage, Kimmel tried to pivot, forcing a weak joke about the weather, but the crowd wasn't buying it. His rhythm was shot, his confidence shattered. Social media was relentless, with memes of Kimmel's meltdown and Leavitt's steely gaze flooding every platform. As the show limped to its close, Kimmel's final monologue was flat, his usual charm buried under the weight of the confrontation. The audience's applause was polite but hollow, a stark contrast to the fire of Leavitt's exit. Backstage, Leavitt declined interviews, instead posting a single tweet. "Spoke for the people tonight. The truth doesn't need a stage. America first." It went viral within minutes, amassing millions of likes and retweets, with supporters praising her as a hero and critics calling her a provocateur. The divide was stark, but Leavitt's message had cut through. Kimmel, meanwhile, faced a PR nightmare. Clips of his aggression, snapping at Leavitt, losing his cool, were dissected on every major news outlet. Pundits debated whether he'd gone too far, while late-night rivals like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon stayed silent, sensing the career-defining misstep. Kimmel's team issued a statement, calling the exchange passionate and reflective of tough times, but it did little to stem the tide. Online, fans of Leavitt organized, flooding Kimmel's social media with demands for an apology, while his loyalists defended his right to challenge guests. In the days that followed, Leavitt's star rose. She appeared on conservative talk shows, framing the Kimmel clash as proof of media bias, her calm demeanor winning over skeptics. Her press briefings drew record viewership, with Americans tuning in to see the woman who'd humbled a late-night giant. The Trump administration capitalized, painting her as a symbol of resistance against elitism. Leavitt, ever disciplined, stayed on message, redirecting attention to policy over personal victory. "This isn't about me," she said in one interview. "It's about the millions who feel silenced." Kimmel, battered but not broken, returned the next night with a half-hearted apology. "Things got heated," he said, forcing a grin. "But that's what happens when you care about the truth, right?" The audience laughed. But the internet wasn't forgiving. His ratings dipped, and whispers of sponsor unease grew louder. The confrontation had exposed a vulnerability, Kimmel's reliance on snark over substance, and Leavitt had exploited it masterfully. The saga ended with a clear victor. Leavitt's defiance had resonated, her exit a triumphant stand for those who felt ignored by Hollywood's echo chamber. Kimmel, once untouchable, was forced to recalibrate, his invincibility tarnished. The viral showdown became a cultural touchstone, a reminder that truth, when spoken boldly, could shake even the brightest stages. As America moved on, Leavitt's words lingered. "The truth doesn't need a stage." And for millions, that was enough.